Hello and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, thank you for tuning in. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you for always coming back. Yeah, I'm happy to be coming your way today with this video. Okay, so we clocked 15 years in marriage last month on 25th of October. So I'll be sharing what I call our Ebenezer moments of the past 15 years of marriage. And by Ebenezer moment, I mean those times where God showed up for us in very profound ways. So I may not be doing this chronologically, but I will definitely just be touching on all those major stories as they come to me. So once again, you're welcome to today's episode. So very quickly, I am going to dive into today's Ebenezer moment drawn out of our 15 years of being married. We got married 2008. In 2009, okay, I got pregnant with our first child 2009. So by the time I was pregnant, I had to travel. I had to go home to my parents because I had to deal with a very intense phase of nausea and all of that. Since we didn't have anybody else, with us, my husband had to go to work on. He worked in. We lived on the mainland at the time, and he worked in Marina. So if you know Lagos, you know that's quite a distance. So leaving a young wife who was not really coping very well was not very advisable. So I had to go to Edo State to be with my parents. My mom could really pay close attention to me and give me all the help that I needed in that stage of pregnancy. Now, at that time, I could not convince myself that this was a bad thing, right? So I could not muster that kind of faith to begin to speak to this thing and say, oh, I refuse you, you stop, we proceed no further because an entire human being was growing inside of me, and that's a big deal. So somehow I had to go through all of that. So by the time I got there, I had to register in a teaching hospital in Edo State, ERA Specialist Teaching Hospital. Then when I got better, I got back to Lagos and I registered also in another place. Now, this was something striking that now happened. When I registered in the second place, I would go for my antenatal visit, but I would not be able to picture me giving birth in that hospital. So I kept wondering, why don't I see me having a baby here? Because I'm used to seeing major steps of my life before I take them. If I cannot really visualize, if it's not standing out in my spirit, I will be very hesitant. I value the importance of vision or seeing before I proceed into anything. So I could not see it, and I felt okay, maybe the pictures will come as time went on. But time went on, I did not see the right pictures I wanted to see. All I could see was a blank wall with no picture of me having a baby there. When I was 36 weeks pregnant, it became a concern because now we had to begin to talk about, okay, who was going to come look after me and the baby? Was I going to travel? And my mom was still in active service at that time. She was still working and she could not leave for so long. My mother-in-law too runs a clinic in Saple, Delta State, Nigeria. And at that time too, it was not easy for her to just also leave my father-in-law and just come and stay in Lagos for a protracted time. So we kept thinking back and forth. I remember I was like, okay, it just felt convenient to go to Edo State and have the baby. So I could just give birth in the hospital where I initially registered in the teaching hospital. But the moment I decided to do that, the Spirit of God gave me a strict warning. He said, if you go there, it was very specific. He said, you will not have a complete testimony. So, sorry if you're hearing background noise. I hope you can hear me. I'm doing this recording in church because sometimes when I leave this space, this may be the only time I get in the week to do this video. So if you're hearing music in the background, I really hope it's not too loud, but it's because I am recording in church. So please bear with me, right? So I I had that word like if you have your baby there, you will not have a complete testimony. So what I could see was that okay, not that I will lose my life, but there will just be something not okay with our birth testimony. So I just forgot about that. But okay, guys, you see this YouTube in life, eh? My goodness, it's not for the faint-hearted. So as you can see, my background or my location has changed because I was doing a video, like I told you, I said I'm in church. I was doing a video, and my husband had to call me to hold some meetings in the office, and that's like the most quiet place. So I had to run to the car. I hope that you can hear me, and I hope we'll not have a lot of background noise and distractions from people walking by. So back to our story.
By the time my mother-in-law came, I still did not know exactly where I was going to have this baby. There was just peace in my heart. But at least I knew that I was not supposed to have my baby in Edo State. I was not supposed to have my baby in the other hospital, the second hospital where I registered in Lagos. Um, so I think it was like 2 days to my delivery. My mother-in-law just began to tell me stories because my mother-in-law is a trained midwife. Like, I'm not talking about an auxiliary nurse, a properly trained nurse. She retired as a matron. She's a midwife. She was a midwife and still is. So um, she began to tell me stories, different birth stories. Some of them were very hilarious. Some of them were purely miraculous. They were just, a lot of them were really funny, talking about what women do when they're in labor, when the pain is so much and the kind of things they say and all that. So we just went on laughing and laughing. And suddenly, while we were talking, the Spirit of God spoke clearly to me again. He said, "You are sitting before your midwife." Oh my goodness. That just clicked. And I just knew like it was a big, bright um, light bulb moment for me. I knew I was standing before my answer. And for the first time, peace filled my heart concerning um, my delivery. So I think on the day that I was finally due, my mother-in-law examined me and said, "Okay, you know what? She came with everything to take the delivery. That I was going to have a home birth." And when she said that again, that peace was there because God had spoken to me. And please let me add this disclaimer. Do not run off after this video to say, hey, she had a baby in the house, so me too, I'm going to have my baby in the house. You may just run into problems. Now, people do have home births. There are still a lot of stories. Go online, you find them. But you have to be very informed. You have to ensure that you don't have a medical history that requires you being under very strict medical supervision. And above all, I had a clear instruction from God. I'm not one of those who do blind faith or who take unreasonable steps and call it faith. No. If God had not told me, frankly, I had never dreamt of a home birth. I have never. I read about it, but I'm like, oh, wow, great. That's not for me. I never imagined it. All I ever imagined was, oh, I'll give birth in a hospital. So the moment she said so, I had peace in my heart. So I got induced, and then the contractions, I've been having contractions on and off. So I got induced and the contractions began to build in intensity. I was right then in the comfort of my home. We're having this message playing by Pastor Chris, something to shout about. It was just on repeat. And that particular message there is like a compilation of amazing testimonies of God's intervention. I remember my sisters-in-law were there. I just had the right cloud above me. I had the right environment. I had the mother-in-law who is spirit-filled, sisters-in-law who are spirit-filled. I remember my husband's immediate younger sister. When the pains became intense, she began to rub my back and pray in tongues. When she starts speaking in tongues, there was just something about the sound of her tongues. There would just be this relief. So when the pains come up in the building intensity, I'll tell her, please speak in tongues, speak in tongues. And as she's speaking to her, I would tell her to rub my back. She rubbed my back that after I had the baby, when I eventually picked up that dress, that whole place, all the thread had pulled out. Like she rubbed the thread out of the dress, so but I just had the right environment. It was even a Sunday. My husband went to preach. I was that at peace. He went for Sunday service and he came back. I began to push. The baby had crowned. I was now pushing. As I pushed, there was no baby. Like the baby was not moving beyond that point. So my mother was now like, okay, you are pushing with a lot of energy. That one push should bring out this baby with the way you are really pushing very hard. So we kept doing that. And after a while, she was able to, I think the baby had moved a bit, and she was able to discover that, oh, the umbilical cord was tied around her neck very tightly. And she said, okay, I'm going to do something now. She said, when I do this now, you have to just push once, because if the baby is not out yet, she's not out to receive oxygen, and then she's going to be cutting the umbilical cord. That was a very delicate moment. So I needed to push. I didn't have any chances to push 4 times, 5 times, just once. So the moment she cut it, I pushed once and the baby was out. Big baby. When my daughter came out, I was like, wow, how was that inside my body? She came out and she was quiet. She didn't cry. There was no sound of her crying. She was just there. Her chest was just heaving slowly. But there was just this profound peace in my heart. That message was still blasting in the background. My husband was speaking in tongues. My sisters-in-law were speaking in tongues. So my mother-in-law got to work, cleared her nose. There was this suction stuff. She used to suck the mucus and whatever out of her nose, tapped her feet. I just lifted my hands because that entire pregnancy was a very, very remarkable one. I knew I had several encounters that made me know that God had gone ahead of me to fight several battles. I remember a particular. Okay, I'll get to that part. So after a few minutes, maybe like 2 3 minutes, she began to cry. She began to cry, and then the cry just began to build in intensity, and we had officially become parents. That was how we had our first baby at home. It was such a beautiful experience. God gave us victory. Now, somewhere in my 5th month or 6th month, I had this dream where there was this woman. We're standing on the line, we're fetching water, and um I don't believe that dreams are God's primary way of talking to us, right? Let me just establish that. I believe God's word is his primary way of talking to us, but I still believe, I do not rule out dreams as one of God's ways of talking to us. Frankly, there are Christians who don't believe, but fine, it's what it is. God still talks to people through dreams. He will speak to you primarily with his word, right? So we're on this queue fetching water, and everything was going on very fine. Everybody was cooperative and everything. And then this old woman just showed up from somewhere, and she just broke the line. Like, she wanted to get in before it was her turn. So I just turned out like, very politely. I was like, ma, there's a queue where when it gets to your turn, you fetch. She just looked at me, and she fixed these wicked eyes on me. Those are like the most wicked, evil eyes I have seen till date. And she said, I know what is wrong with you. I know what is catching you. That was her line. He said, it's that thing inside you. If I touch her, you will know where you are. The moment she said so, this anger rose up inside of me. I was like, touch who? So she brought out white powder and she blew it on me. As she blew it, I was saying, greater is he that is in me. So the powder was coming to me. I was saying that. And I was saying I was going down, but I was saying it, greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. And I opened my eyes. I woke my husband up. I was like, look at the kind of dream I just had. At first, it was like, don't worry, it doesn't mean anything. You're okay. Nothing can touch baby. The next thing he woke up and said, what did you say? You said somebody blew one thing on you. My husband began to release declarations. I've never heard such violent prayers from him before. I don't think I've heard such violent prayers from him after that moment. He began to make declarations. I remember he specifically said, every hand pointed at this baby or at you, that hand withers. And that was how he made those declarations and everything. So now in retrospect, I could see that there were things going on in the background. There was this conspiracy somewhere that said I will not have a baby. That first baby was not supposed to see the light of day. But because I put my hand in God's hand and he led us one step at a time, we had perfect victory. Listen, it's so important. In every major, in everything you do, even if it looks like a minor thing, let God lead you. Let the Spirit of God guide you. So he guided us step by step and showed us what to do, what not to do, where not to go. That was how we're able to have victory. Just like the baby Jesus, he gave them specific instructions. So in ensuring that you have a testimony that is full, you must pay attention to the specific instructions God is giving to you, and you will come back with a testimony. It's 15 years later, and that precious baby, she's 14. She turned 14 this year, and alive and well, thriving and blossoming beautifully. So we are so grateful. I thought to come back here and just save this memorial of God's kindness and what we have called our Ebenezer moment. I hope that this has blessed you. Remember to share with somebody who needs to be encouraged. Somebody out there who feels like, oh, God has forgotten me, or I'm in a crossroads of life. I don't know what to do. Send this video to them. Share this video with them. Encourage somebody. There's a lot of bad news in our world today. We need to still remember that there is a God who is our help, our ever-present help. So thank you for tuning in today. I look forward to coming your way again with the next episode on this series that we have called our Ebenezer moments in 15 years of being married. I hope to get my husband on sets before we are done. My husband is a very busy person, but yeah, we came up with this idea. He asked me to go ahead and start, and I trust that one or two of the episodes is going to be right here with us. I look forward to that episode. Until I come your way again, stay blessed.